got a live story, live Unvax story. I've just met Bronwyn literally a couple of minutes ago. So Bronwyn, welcome to the show. Good morning.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. All right. Well, so I think the first thing people need to know is that you have a master's in genetics. And it's very important because we're told we're really stupid, us mothers,
It's,
with vaccinated children.
it,
So
it's very true.
don't mess with Bronwyn. Bronwyn, tell us your story. Let's go back and talk about, because you've got 5 children.
I do.
Tell us.
I have, yep, there they are. My oldest son, I thought I was going to do everything right. We had a horrible experience in the hospital, but everything was okay after that. He got all the normal vaccines because I didn't think to, well, that's Quinn. I didn't think to question any of that. And he was a happy, engaging baby. And then I took him in for his 1-year appointment. And he had been walking for a month already. He had a few words. After that appointment, he lost eye contact. He lost his words. He started walking on his toes. He started compulsively stacking his toys. You know, you've heard this story before. But I didn't add it up until much later.
So Bronwyn, just for a second, let's get this, set this up for everyone. So this is a Unvax story. So you and your husband, did you have any conversations about vaccines before you had your first child? Did you even talk about it?
Not really, other than neither one of us ever believed in the flu shot, but that we just didn't really question much of the rest of it.
And how old is your oldest child? So
He is 21 now.
21 now. So we're going back a bit. Did they do vaccines in pregnancy in those days?
No one told me about vaccines in pregnancy until my third.
Okay. So you have your first child and you're not questioning, why would you? And you continue on the schedule.
Right. And then we lost him. I can say though, he is mostly recovered. He lost his diagnosis at about 16 and he is going to college across the country from us. He's doing great.
He's doing great. But so he had a reaction to the shots.
We will never get his early childhood back.
That's right. And so but you didn't realize it was a vaccine because you went and had another child and vaccinated the second child?
I did. When he was 19 months old, I had my second child. And again, didn't really question anything. At her 4-month shots, she had the DTaP screen. So
how did she do? So she's on schedule.
She was, yeah. So at 4 months, she had that reaction. Everyone told me that was normal. But in between her 4-month and her 6-month appointment, I dove in and I didn't know what to do. This how naive I was. I didn't know I could delay that appointment. I didn't know that I could seek out another doctor. I took her in and the nurse who did her vaccines was very efficient. She came in with 3 syringes and she pinned my daughter to the table and she went shot, 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 Band-Aid, Band-Aid, here's your baby. And then she said, oh, whoops, one of the Band-Aids stuck to me. And of course, there's a little spot of blood on my shirt. Driving home, I remember the intersection where I stopped at a red light and this feeling just settled over me that I now have my child's blood on me. And that was the last vaccine any of us got.
Wow, so awful that when you hear so many times from holding down, jabbing them in all the limbs. I mean, now that we know what we know, it is nothing but child abuse. It is so barbaric. But we didn't know, Bronwyn. Okay, so then you have baby number 3 and you plan a home birth.
So yeah, I hated those hospital births. And by number 3, I said, we're going to do it all right this time. But I think I was very depleted. I didn't know as much about nutrition at the time. So the continuous pregnancy, breastfeeding, pregnancy again, that pregnancy never fully implanted well. And I had a placental abruption at 26 weeks. And so he was born by C-section. Vertical incision, by the way, because it was so early and they told me I'd never have another vaginal birth. Spoiler, I had 2, second one at home. Ladies question everything.
So he's born at 26 weeks?
Right.
Wow.
He missed an entire trimester of pregnancy. He was 1 pound, 10 ounces at birth. And so then we got initiated into what happens in the NICU. For an early preemie, they predict that they'll be there until their due dates. And so we knew he would be there for about 3 months. And I forget what the cutoff is, but it's something like 30 weeks, where a baby who's born before 30 weeks, they'll do the birth dose of hepatitis B at 30 days. Now, if I didn't already smell a rat with the vaccine schedule, that would have been a major red flag, because that's so arbitrary. Why would you do that? But he was doing okay. And at 30 days, they came to me and said, it's time for hepatitis B. And I declined.
Bronwyn, how
And
much did he weigh at 30 days?
he had probably gotten up to 2.5 pounds, maybe 3.
They want to give hepatitis B to 2.5, maybe 3 pound baby.
Right.
Wow.
And keep in mind, a 29-week baby at 30 days is totally different than a 26-week baby at 30 days. It's just, there's no rhyme or reason to it. But I declined, and they said, okay, well, we'll talk about that again at 2 months. So then 2 months comes along, and he is barely 5 pounds. He's still using supplemental oxygen. He's still getting tube fed. And they say, it's time for the 2-month schedule. Okay. He was due July 7th. He's born April 4th. This is early June. They're coming to me. He should still have been inside my body for another month. But simply because he left my body 2 months prior, it's time for DTaP and Hib and polio and Hep, the whole thing. And in every other way, for preemie's development, they consider what their original birth date might have been. That makes sense? So at 6 months old, we were looking at him like a 3-month-old baby. But when it comes to the vaccine schedule, it's all chronological. So the same schedule that a 12-pound 2-month-old gets, my barely 5-pound early preemie is going to get.
So you fight them off?
I did. So our main nurse said, it's time for his vaccines. Here's all the vaccine information sheets. And I declined. And she's like, okay, I'll write that down. The next day, when I went back, there was a nurse practitioner, and one of the neonatologists waiting to talk to me. And they said, we're concerned that you declined the vaccines without taking the vaccine information sheets. And I was trying not to laugh. I said, okay, give me one of the sheets. Now, what's on this paper that's not in the pink book? And only one of them knew what that was. So the pink book is a publication put out by the CDC for healthcare providers. And there's a chapter on every disease that we have a vaccine for. And it goes into great detail about the disease and the vaccine itself. It's a huge textbook. And the one who knew what that was said, wait, you read that? I said, yes, I read it cover to cover. This was not some spur of the moment whim. I spent more time on this question than I did on my master's thesis. I quit vaccinating the rest of our family. And I will give them credit. They left me alone after that.
It's an incredible story. So how old is that third child now?
He is now 17, and he has not been to a hospital since the year he was born.
Okay, so it's because we hear so many stories of preemies that died of SIDS following shots, and you can
Right.
see why with what you've just told us.
Right.
So he's never had a vaccine. He's 17 years old. And is he okay? Does he have autism? Does he have seizures?
He has no allergies, no asthma. He is very healthy. He's smart. He's funny. He's a great brother to the rest of his siblings.
It's amazing. Bronwyn, I'm so proud of you. Wow. Because it's so hard when you're in hospital, when you're feeling fragile, you've had an awful shock, you've had a C-section with this preemie, and these doctors are relentlessly coming down on you and scaring you. But you stood
Right. Right. It was very scary. And trying to get him out of the hospital was an adventure too. I've learned some things about that. You know, we passed his due date, and I finally went in one day and I cornered the head neonatologist and I said, what criteria are you looking for to discharge him? And I caught her flat-footed and she said, how about tomorrow? I said, great, I'm taking my baby home. They wanted to get him totally off oxygen, but I have passed this along to other people too. Get a very clear list of what they're looking for, no matter who's in the hospital. Get a very clear list so that everyone's on the same page and they don't try to say, oh, well, wait till this, wait till this. And that ended up working. So, because he would have been there for another several weeks. But as it was, I got him home, I got him off oxygen. We transitioned to breastfeeding. I went on to breastfeed him until he was 2.
Wow. Bronwyn, it's amazing. So then you went on and had two more babies.
Did. So my next baby was full term. Everything went great with that pregnancy, but I couldn't find a midwife to help me after what happened with them. So she was born in the hospital and she's now 14. She gets sick about once every 3 or 4 years for one day. She is just incredibly healthy.
And your last child?
Number 5 was born at home. He got absolutely nothing that the hospital has to offer, and he runs circles around everybody.
How old is your fifth child?
He is 8. He'll be 9 at the end of the summer.
And does he have seizures or allergies or all these things that vaccinated children have? Does he have any of those?
He has none of those. He's gifted. He is very smart.
So, Bronwyn, let's summarize this up. You have 2 vaccinated children, 3 unvaccinated. You, in your own words, describe the difference between health-wise and otherwise. Clearly, you love them all exactly the same. So
Right.
just describe the difference between your vaxxed, unvaxxed home study.
I mean, progressively, I felt like I was more and more confident in trusting that we are given all that we need to survive and to thrive in this world. You know, I wanted that with my first child, but really was only the last child who got all of those things. And they look alike because they look like brothers, but they are not having the same experience in life. It's totally different. And I see in my youngest child what my oldest child could have been. And I don't, like you say, I don't love him any less. He had his own journey, and I'm grateful that he's here and that he is who he is. But there are things he missed out on.
Bronwyn, you know, it's really true. We are so pleased for the unvaccinated children. We're so pleased. We feel like our vaccinated children took one for the team for the unvaccinated to be free, but it's still a kick in the gut.
Yes.
That our children that are vaccinated and injured to various different degrees
Yes.
could have been prevented, but of the lies of it all.
Very much.
Just heard from Carl, our senior science researcher at CHD. I mean, just hearing the science and the whole fraud, everything that went behind it, the deception, and it's still going on today.
It is.
What's your advice to that young mum?
Trust that you have what you need. Also, your body and your baby belong to you, not your doctor. I don't want to hear any more of this. My doctor said no. My doctor said I had to. My doctor said that. Go ahead and take their advice into account. But this is your decision. You're the one who lives with it, not your doctor.
That's right, Bronwyn, totally. I understand that. What do you think about, you know, we've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in there, and we're hopeful that he actually does stop this. And I know it's a hard job, no one's bashing him, but my goodness, it's hard. We've never been in a position where we've had somebody that maybe can potentially stand up for us. But what's it going to take for this to stop?
I don't know because we used to live in New York. And I will tell you, I felt like I was making some headway with some of those legislators as they were taking away our religious exemption. And in the end, they had other pressures that were greater than understanding what they were demanding of our kids. So
Also,
there are too many perverse incentives.
Lou, can you bring me on with Bronwyn? It feels kind of weird talking in the background now. Thank you. There we go. We do this, by the way, viewers, if you think it is weird, we do this so that when, you know, we have a whole history of vaccine injury stories and vax and vax, and my face in it is just annoying, and we need just Bronwyn. But now we're going to have a chat. I'm quite old, as you can tell, but back in the days, you know, years ago in the 90s when I had my children, we didn't have all the information everyone has today. Like they can find out they're pregnant, I don't know, something like 3 weeks or something. Then they have, you know, all the fear of it's an ectopic pregnancy, or it's this, or it's that. There's so much information. Then they've got internal scans and they've got, I don't know, when I listen to the young mothers of today, this fear that's going on from the midwives, from the hospitals, it's so much information, and it always ends in medical intervention, which ends in disaster 9 times out of 10. But again, back in my day, you found out you're pregnant, about, I don't know, whatever, and they went to the midwife around 12 weeks, and then they saw you at 20 weeks, did a scan, and then they left you on your own. And in the scan, you couldn't even tell if it was a baby. It didn't even look like just a spine is all you could see. But now it's just, and then the mothers have been made to go every single week to have scans because they think it's big or they think it's small or there's this or there's that. And this is, I think, what the problem is. They're just, these young mums are just living perpetual fear because they're constantly
Absolutely.
back.
And really, fear is a useless state of mind. It's not, what do you get out of fear? It's not going to help you make a decision. And I understand why there's such a strong desire to say, oh, my doctor will take care of that. But no, you're the one who gets to live with this. And if they're trying to keep you in fear, that is not for your benefit, it's not to your baby's benefit. Fear is not perfect love cast without fear. Okay. Fear is not the state that God wants us to be in.
That's right. I just like, a mother said to me the other day, oh, you can't give honey to my child. She's not quite one yet. I'm like, okay, but you're okay to put vaccines in with aluminum and all that other stuff, but not any like Manuka honey and a tiny bit of whatever. That's not okay because we're not thinking anymore. Bronwyn,
No.
I loved having you on this morning. So lovely to meet you. And
Yes.
so it's a good way to do this, people. Come on, just Good Morning CHD and do this. Your family are absolutely stunning. And I'm just so proud of you that you fought like that. You know, you should probably write a book, actually. I think there's probably something you could do because that's really important with your third child, how you fought that. People want to know
Yeah.
how to be like that.
Well, I've heard you speak, I've heard you have so many stories on here where someone says, my baby was in the NICU and they just get snowed. So I felt like it was important to show it is possible, even with a medically fragile baby, to raise that child without vaccines. It's totally possible. He's living proof.
Yeah, he is living proof. Wonderful. Okay, well, Bronwyn, thank you for coming on. We will write your two first children's names on our bus with the injury.
Thank you.
And we don't have an unvaccinated section, but just because it would be so big now. But thank you for your advice. Thank you for all that you do.